word from our sponsor.
Orion. Fun fact. How many times I get emails and get called Ryan? Just think that's interesting. Not Ryan Reynolds. It's my cousin. Not really. What's up, everybody? My name is CJ Reynolds, and this is Sunday Night Teacher Talk that happens in the afternoon, 1 p.m. every single Sunday, Eastern Standard Time, that is. And we, why does that look a little blurry? I don't know. I might have to fix that situation right here on camera. So we are, this is like, we're coming up on, I need to find the date. We're coming up on the 5th year that we've been doing this. I'm going to just clean this camera right here. I'm just going to go ahead and do it.
Just hang on.
Just hang on. I think it looks gross. My son touches things. Maybe that looks better. I have no idea. Coming up on 5 years. Did this first show 5 years ago with Miss May.
It was so long.
What, the talk?
So long ago. I mean,
oh,
sorry,
yeah.
incomplete thought.
But that's when it was Teacher Talk Live, and it happened on Sundays and I had guests. But then guests, it just gets weird.
It's hard. It was hard to do with guests prior to like all of these Be Live and StreamYard.
Oh, the tech wasn't there at all.
No, when we tried to do it, it was YouNow. It was the only thing that existed to do.
It was the worst.
Yeah,
it was so glitchy, and you had to like teach people how to use it before they came on.
It was really difficult to coordinate.
So now it's just easier to do it on your own. So anyway, everyone, here's the idea. If you're new here, if you've never been here before, what's up?
That cracky preschooler said because I remember that talk with Mr. Thane. That was the second. I think that was our first or second.
It was second.
The second one that we ever did. Yeah.
Thane was second, and then we had all the OGs on back then.
She's an OG, yeah. Well, even Harper just being around. Awesome. Sorry.
Anyway, so you can go back. Those are actually podcasts too. We put those out as podcasts on Fridays, something like that. Like all the OG episodes of like, everyone from like Too Cool was on there, and
people don't even do YouTube anymore.
Yeah, Thane doesn't do YouTube anymore. He was on there. Yeah.
There's a bunch of people. There's a bunch of great interviews.
Joe Dombrowski. There's some like randos in there. Like before Joe Dombrowski like really blew up and ended up on. I think before he ended up on Ellen.
No, I think it was right after he was on.
Was
Ellen.
it? Yeah. My man Ray Fesquith,
Charlotte.
Yep. Darren Akihara.
Tracy knows.
Yeah. So those are fun. We should do like a anniversary episode. I shouldn't say this stuff out loud.
No, you shouldn't. Just be quiet.
Okay, I'll be quiet now. Anyway, thank you, wife, keeping me in line.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a question and you've never been here before, the way that this works is you are going to drop that question down in the chat. You can put a Q next to it, or if you would like to come on live, you can go right into the description box. It's going to tell you exactly how to do it. You click the link, takes you to a special little location. Fill out like a couple things of information just so that we know you're an actual human being, and then it will bring you to the link to be in here, and then you'll come on live and you can ask your question and stuff like that. So, and yeah, I think that's it. I think we're just leaving it that simple this week. I don't have to give all the rest of the preamble. We're just going for it. Do you have a question already, or should I do other stuff?
No, go. I have a question from Caitlin. She is asking, I'm thinking about switching content areas from high school. Oh, I'm glad she said she's FACS, which is Family and Consumer Science, to math. Do you have any advice? I just can't handle 9 preps anymore. I'm a first-year teacher.
Yeah, so I think, I love that she brought that up, because I just think, first of all, let's take a look at the fact that there's 9 preps. Like, and I just wonder what that meeting looked like when it was like, what is this? Let's figure this out. Let's figure out like if it's okay for someone to have this many preps. It's not. That's ridiculous. I was talking to someone yesterday that has to teach 85 kids at a time now in an auditorium. That's not sustainable. So I think the idea here is like is being mindful of like what's actually doable, and then doing that. I think changing content areas is a great idea, especially if you still like whatever you're doing. If you like that stuff, it's fine. Like, just go do it. Like, I think that if that's going to bring you peace and joy and happiness and give you a little bit more time and a little bit more sanity, then do it. Teaching is not just doing for others. It's not just, you know, showing up in the content areas and in the grade levels and all that stuff for students. It is also about like, what are your gifts to bring? What are your, like, if you have a gift in that area, then go ahead and do it. I think that works fine. What's up?
Oh gosh, sorry.
Can you make that not vibrate every time? Because I feel like it's going to show up in the recording.
I need it to vibrate.
In that case.
Okay, we're all running a little bit behind. So
is Edie a little bit behind?
I don't know, but I'm just gonna ask one. We're gonna go with a rando.
Is Edie
Alex? Yeah,
just, right. I'm just saying. I was going to shout her out for a second.
Alex is asking, "Hi Reynolds, it's my first year as a guidance counselor, and I'm struggling to feel like I have much to contribute in meetings, especially with admin. Any advice to help grow my voice?"
Guidance counselor struggling to feel I have much to contribute. That's such a good question. Alex, I think a way to add to the conversation is by asking. So look, I feel like one, that's a really valid point. And when I started teaching, I had a lot of ideas and I should have done more listening than talking anyway, because I knew in theory how things ran and how to do stuff and what was going on. But in practice, I didn't really know. Like, if that was, I just didn't know what I didn't know yet. And so it was difficult for me. I think if I was in your shoes, what I would do is show up to meetings and ask more questions. What you want to do is practice using your voice. And using your voice can look like asking questions, getting clarity on some things, asking for someone to give examples of something, asking what students are being kept in mind when we're thinking about certain stuff. And then, you know, as you feel like you have something to add, do it. But if you don't have something to add, then that's fine, right? Like, your job is to be there for kids. You're counseling students. And if you don't have something to say amongst people that have been doing this for 20 years, like, that's fine. Like, you know, I think that that's acceptable. Don't feel like you have to say something. Like, listen, and when necessary, like, one of my, this doesn't necessarily apply, but I love this idea of St. Francis used to say, preach always, and when necessary, use words. And one of the things, the reason I love that is because it's not just what you're saying, it's what you're doing. And so be doing the good work that you've been given to do. And then when necessary, like in these meetings, like, say something. But I would start with asking questions over feeling like you need to have like a point of view or a take on everything. What you got?
Scott Ordway's hanging out. He wants to hang out, and I think his little baby's there. Oh, I'm so excited.
Well, I thought that was a shoulder. I thought he had a
little baby boy. Oh.
What's up, man?
Hi. Yeah,
Shave.
I got my main man. I got my main man here. This is Miles.
Oh,
what's up, Miles? Look at that. I thought you had a tank top on for a second in the lower. All I saw was his head on your shoulder.
I'm not allowed to wear tank tops.
Okay.
He's 5 months.
5 months.
Oh,
man.
Love it. Look at I just love
Okay.
it.
You know,
They're so precious.
you just miss it, man. I don't miss changing diapers or getting up in the middle of the night.
I'll go closer. There you go.
Oh my gosh, he's
I made my 11-year-old hold my hand yesterday as we were walking through Lowe's, and I was like, "Your hand used to be so much smaller," and I can still feel it in my hand when she was little. So oh gosh, I do miss that stuff, man. What's going on, man?
Well, first, I cut my lip shaving like half an hour ago, and it is still bleeding. So I need to figure this out after I get off of here. I'm like, what is going on?
You were like, let me go live on the internet with blood dripping down my face because we're keeping it real. That's what we're doing.
Well, I figured by the time I got on here, I'd be okay. But anyhow, So my question is, so in California, we're supposed to go back to school hybrid by the end of the month, but and I don't know how to explain this without being too complicated. So my wife works at a school in the district. She's special ed, so she's got to be there like almost all the time live. I am the distance learning only teacher, so I have some more flexibility, but I do have an elective class. So I guess my question is, I'm trying to figure out how do I watch this guy and my daughter's in kindergarten on her own different school schedule. Do you have any advice for how to figure out childcare, taking care of this guy, still doing my job? Because I don't know if I'm allowed to work from home since I don't have to be in the classroom. I could imagine that some teachers will say, well, that's not equitable and that's not fair. But I'm like, but look at this guy. Come on now. So I'm really confused on what to do.
Yeah, dude, that's tough, man. I mean, I know, like, even, we had we had a significant amount of snow recently, and someone from our school came. They like were in passing, like popped into one of my classes, asked about attendance for the day, and like, were kids actually there? And I said, yeah, everyone's here, and they were like, he says, well, good, because like, kids were asking if we had the day off, and don't they know we're learning virtually? And so it's like, but what I thought was, I work with so many people that have like 1 to 4 to 5 kids at home, and when it snows and everything else is shut down, now it's like, but like these folks need like childcare. Like now they're supposed to teach and take care of 4 kids that like their things got shut down, so now they don't have somewhere to take them, so they can't pay their full attention. I think it's about, if I was in that situation, one, I would teach from home, and I don't care if it's equitable or not, because like everyone needs to figure out their own situation, right? So like fair isn't equal. And so what that looks like to me is, if I have to stay home to take care of my children because they're number one, like my family's number one over everything that I do, and then that's just the way that it is. And so how can that look like I'm trying to do the best job that I can in this crazy year, right? So like, I think folks are forgetting that like we're in the midst of like some madness here. Like this isn't business as usual, and we can't take the regular school model and fit it into the virtual world, especially when there are kids. Even stuff like, I was late twice last week to a class and my kids were giving me crap about it, and I was like, dude, my dog had to go out. I'm like literally ready to sign in for class, and like the dog is like whining at the back door. I'm like, what am I supposed to do? Tell them to wait for 80 minutes while I'm on there?
I seriously feel like I can never leave to go do errands during the day, because like, who's going to field questions from our kids?
Yeah.
Like, they're just, and I don't want them to interrupt you. It's just a whole thing.
So I
Sometimes
think, but I think it's just the thing, right? It's like sometimes in life, like even right now, right? Like what everyone can't see is like the dog made the door open, and now I can hear the dishwasher, and my wife's phone keeps buzzing because she's texting people, but then it buzzes on the desk, and it's like the idea of something being perfect is just not doable. What is the best that we can do? What's the best that we can kind of make this for kids, with circumstances being what they are? And then I think paring down the work that you have to do. So like if you're teaching a class with Miles, awesome. Like I think kids will love that. If you have to give kids more, like you're meeting with them in a synchronous way online, but then you're giving them asynchronous work to do. I do that all the time. Like that's what we do in school. We don't teach and talk and conversate with our students the whole time. At some point, it's like you have to ship the lesson, you give it to the students, they're doing it, and they're being quiet and learning, and then you can pop in and out for questions. And that's what I do all day. Like it's like first 15 to 20 minutes with students. I'd say the next 45 minutes is kids in breakout rooms trying to figure it out. And then I'm jumping into those breakout rooms and trying to help them. And I think that works fine. Like it's going to be okay. But yeah, don't forget that, like, like I feel like the education system can make us feel like we're not enough, or that like that education needs to be first. It doesn't. Our families are 100% first. And then what great lesson is that teaching our students too? Like, what, like Mr. Ordway like brings his kid to class, like he's like, being a dad, like sitting there rocking his kid, like that is stuff that like some of our students never see, they didn't experience, they don't know about. And so you are being the example of what it looks like to be like yeah, I'm a grown up. Yeah, like I'm a grown man, but I'm trying to figure this out. Like, and this is what figuring out looks like. And I'm going to make mistakes and I'm going to mess up, and Miles might poop in the middle of class and I have to go take care of business. Like, this is life right now, man. And I think it's okay if it's like that. Or you could, you know,
for sure.
even hiring a babysitter is just like so expensive. Like, I get it. Like, you could do it, like, but I don't know. But, you know, that feels nerve wracking to me too. Like, put my kids in a place where I don't know how safe everyone else is being. And, you know, I don't know.
I think the whole point is you're home, right? Shouldn't your children be home with you?
Well, and what are you supposed to do?
I know it's a weird.
It's
right,
not like,
there needs to be.
It's not like Miles is 2 and you can just put on some Nick
Jr.
Jr. for 80 minutes while you're teaching a class real quick or something like that.
I think of some of your co-workers like that have little ones, that have like 3 little ones. I know specifically under like the age of 6. That's a lot of little ones.
No.
And she's teaching. That's crazy to me.
It's crazy. So, yeah.
Best of luck.
I'd say, what if this was fun? That's what keeps coming through my head, like this week. What if this was fun? Like, how could I make this actually something that's like, I don't know, doesn't suck, isn't something that's hard to figure out, but it's just like, yeah, it's kind of fun. Like, let's figure this out. It's Miles, my co-teacher. I put a little tie on him every day, bring him to class. You know, it'd be awesome. Yeah, there you go.
It's the best.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm Miles.
Hi, Miles.
Sometimes I poop my pants. He's like Boss Baby. Be awesome.
You would make our children say all kinds of
things.
Yes.
I would. I'd have glasses on him, bow ties. They look like
I know.
Little Indiana Jones and the professor.
I use the face filters. I use the Zoom face filters that you showed, so I make them like a pig or a pirate and all that. And I get out of the way and I hold them up. That's pretty fun. So
there's mustache ones on there and stuff.
Yeah.
5 o'clock shadow.
I love it.
For sure.
That's the move, man. Look, dude, my best to you. I hope it works out for you. And if not, let's talk again. I think there's
delay.
All right, man. Talk to you soon. What do we got?
Our next question comes from Catherine Metcalf. She is asking, hey, Reynolds, I have a friend starting his own YouTube channel focused on mental health. Any advice for him?
I'd say, Catherine, the thing that folks get messed up on YouTube is the numbers a lot of times. And what are people going to watch? I think you put out good content that is important to you. Have a sense of what people are doing. I think like the best place to get. So I think one, it's about building community, right? So it's not about numbers, but it's about caring for the people that are watching you. Sometimes this live feed has a lot of people watching it at one time. Sometimes it's not as many people, right? But you don't show up and like try half as hard when it shows up. You still show up. You care for the people that show up because they showed up, and you give your all. And then you read the comment section afterwards, and you make videos based on the comments. You reach out to people based on the comments. And so a lot of like what I get to do in this is show up to be a blessing to people, show up to help people where I can, and create space for other people to help one another as well, right? Like I say all the time, this isn't just about me, but it's about other folks. It's about helping people to feel like they belong to something and care for them, and then help them to care for one another. And I think that's it. So what videos you're making are an expression of care, right? What content you're creating, the comments you're making back to people, the emails that you're sending, like it's all an expression of care. And I think if you keep that in mind, then the other stuff just becomes like, you're not so worried about it. Other than that, I'd say don't sweat things like looking up, like trying to have the best audio or video quality. It's like there's a lot of stuff you can do for free, and a lot of people spend a whole bunch of money on stuff, and it's like not really necessary. Like you could get, like if your iPhone is like pretty new, you could just put it on a tripod or prop it against your windowsill, have the light shine on your face, and then that looks pretty good. Like my friend, I just found out this the other day. I don't know if this is putting her on blast, but I just thought it was so brilliant. LaTanya from Smarty Styles is a good friend of mine on YouTube, and she pays for nothing extra. She literally just shoots from her camera in front of a window every day. Like, she doesn't use a light ring because of her glasses. She doesn't, there's like no fancy extra stuff that she does. It's just shooting in front of a window every day. And I just thought that was so awesome, because it just speaks to that ability. So yeah, it's caring for the people, and don't go nuts on like spending money on stuff. Like, don't get focused on numbers, focus on people, focus on the folks that show up, and not a play button, or, you know, and make your own play button. That's what I did. It's that situation up there. Oh, can't really see it because I have stuff in front of my computer. But yeah, my best to them. What you got?
Stephanie Shook is just saying, she said she doesn't have to be live, but she just wants to celebrate with everyone. She just finished her last master's class yesterday, and she's feeling like she can breathe. Woohoo!
That is awesome.
Yeah, good job.
What a great feeling to like be done that. So good for you, Steph. That's awesome.
Cho is somewhere in here. I just texted her. I don't know if she knows how to get in here. She just said, I have no question, just hang out for a little bit.
So, you know, ironically, I have this picture back here today because I got it printed. This is one of my favorite pictures in the world. This is me and Cho doing hallway duty. Well, Cho was doing hallway duty and probably eating a snack, because that's what she always does. I was getting coffee, and I had a sweater on, and I said it was hot that day. But whenever I wear a sweater, I don't wear all my shirts under sweaters, never have sleeves on them. I just cut them off because it's annoying. It gets all cut up in your sleeve and stuff like that. So I took it off, and then this is Cho's look every single day that I did anything in school. And I love it. It just sits back here. She's got to be my favorite person I ever worked with. She's the best.
She is the best. Except she doesn't know how to find the link to get into.
Cho, you're a student at Harvard.
Hold on, Cho. I'll get you there. Let's answer a different question first.
Good.
CJ97 is saying, hey, CJ, I will be a first-year teacher in the fall through TFA. I have a lot of experience tutoring and teaching ESL at nonprofits. What else would you recommend to help me get off to a good start?
So I think keeping in mind that there's no one size fits all in education. And sometimes folks will try and have you believe that they figure that like you need to do it this way to get this outcome. And it's just not true. Like, you don't have to do sit-ups to get abs. There's 97 other ways to get abs than to do sit-ups. There's no one way. It's like Reese's cup, right? There's no one way to eat Reese's. And I think that that's one. And two, it's showing up with students and getting to know them and not pretending that you know them, right? Because even if I taught, like, so I really, really, really learned this by when I taught in Camden, New Jersey for the first 5 years of my teaching career. I really thought I gained a sense of like where my students came from, what the neighborhood was about. Like, I put in a lot of work about like learning about the history of Camden, New Jersey and its transformation over the years, and especially the neighborhood with which I was teaching in, Kramer Hill. I did like just really tried to get a sense of like who I was teaching and what folks were about, what was important to them, and that sort of thing. When I shifted to West Philadelphia, it was still Title I schools, still tough neighborhood, but what I knew before didn't necessarily serve the folks that I was working with now. Like, the slang changed, the value on certain things that folks put value on, like, changed. Like, there were a lot of differences. And I thought like, oh, I'm used to working in this, let's say, call this, I'm used to working in this poor neighborhood with folks. That's got to be the same as this. And it's just not. And it wasn't the same when I worked in Africa, and it wasn't the same when I worked in Camden. It wasn't the same when I've done work all over Philadelphia. Like, and so going into it with that mindset of like, what do I need to learn? How do I need to grow relationships? How do I need to become part of the community? Is something that I wish I'd thought of before. And that's something that I've had to learn the hard way. And it's like a little bit embarrassing even to just think that like I even thought that way. But it's about being honest with yourself and about showing up for those students. And that, yeah, I think that's the jam. Yeah, good luck to you, man. I used to work speaking of TFA, Cho was TFA. I'm gonna beam you in now. What's up, buddy?
Yo, I've never used this before.
What?
StreamYard.
Yeah. Well,
It's cool.
it's because you have to pay for it, so it's not like a common. Like I think there's like a free version, but it's like
Crappy.
Oh, they're advertising.
it's like
all
free.
over.
Yeah. Then it just looks like it. It looks like, first of all, it looks like this, and it's like with all their stuff on it. It's like, no, I don't want to do that. How are you, man?
Oh, you know, it's midterm season, so I got my readings sitting on my couch trying to get through case studies. It's exciting stuff.
Yes. Can you real quick? I know who you are, and I would love to tell everyone who you are, but can you tell everyone who you are and what you do?
Who I am Cho. I used to work with Reynolds at Boys Latin for 6 years. Yes, there's a lovely picture of one of our interactions. So most recently at Boys Latin, I was a dean of students. I taught for 7 years before that, science teacher, department chair, etc. And now I am a doctoral fellow at Harvard's Graduate School of Education.
Woohoo!
I'll tell you what, I never went to Harvard, but I know a lot of people that did, and I just feel like at some level, it's just like, I don't know, maybe it'll rub off on me or something like that's what I hope. It's like I'm not fit all the time, but I have a lot of friends that are fit, and so maybe that'll just.
That's not how it works, Reynolds.
Their good habits will rub off on me.
Yes, it does, Joe. Yes, it does. It works exactly like that. Girl.
I eat Cheetos. He's healthy. Look at him. Let's hang out.
You just keep going to the gym and work out for me, girl.
Yeah, you're the average of the 5 people you hang out with the most with. How have you been?
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's COVID time, so I feel like everyone is experiencing their own kind of crazy. For me, I'm sitting in front of my computer from 8 a.m. until usually 5 or 6 p.m. You know, the struggle has been trying to figure out how to structure in breaks, right? So like amongst the classes and the meetings and, you know, the consulting sessions and everything, you got to create, like, I put stuff in my calendar to eat breakfast, eat lunch, go for a walk, work out, right? Like all of those things so that I'm not sitting in front of the computer for 9 hours at a time.
100%. Yeah, that's I do too. Like it's like my 5 to 7 a.m. thing is like it's in my calendar. It says it every single day, reminds me to do it every day. And then the thing I like about that too is that when I can check that off, if it's like a feeling of satisfaction to be able to say like, oh no, I did this.
Yeah.
Like that was important. That was just as important as all the work I have to do, because if I don't do that, then I can't do all the work that I have
Sometimes, Joe, it's not even on the calendar necessarily, but it's on his like to-do list for the day. It's like, it's as simple as have fun, smile, dance today, do something silly, play video games.
The other day, right? It was
like,
dance and laugh with the kids. That was on my to-do list for the day.
But I think people underestimate, and like, right, those things are super important for our mental health, and like, they have to be scheduled just as important. They're just as important as scheduling a meeting, is what I'm trying to say. Cho, you actually have a question. Yes. Dayla Classroom, our buddy Dayla Classroom's he's saying, not sure if you can see this, but what type of science did you teach?
Hey, Dayla Classroom.
Yeah, he's awesome.
So I taught a couple of different types of sciences. Started with chemistry. I taught forensic science at one point. I don't know how I got landed with that.
Remember that?
I taught biology, a little bit of physical science. So I dabbled in a whole bunch of stuff. And then I was the science department chair. So I really interacted with all the different sciences at one point or another.
I remember talking to you about that at one point, because somebody was like gonna, like, I don't know, like you needed like a science teacher in some class. And I was like, oh, why don't you just have this person teach that? And you were like, no, it's completely different.
Yeah.
It's not like literature where like, whether you teach 9th or 12th grade literature, there's like very little that you have to learn to be able to do it. Like I'd probably have to like refresh myself on a bunch of stuff, but like it's not learning like basically a whole new subject matter. I was like, oh no, it's science though. It's all science. And you were like, no, it's like biology to chemistry to, whatever else, physics is completely different.
Yeah.
It's never dawned on me. Like I'm like, that was like history. Like, I don't know, we're just learning history.
Yeah. I mean, there are whole like pockets of sciences, right? There's like life sciences, there's physical sciences, and like the skills that you need to do either or any of those different categories of things is completely different. Like you couldn't take a biologist and put them in a physical science laboratory and expect them to do the work. It requires a completely different set of skills.
Yeah. Yeah. You got any other questions? Let's give Cho some questions.
Oh, you want to?
Let's have her flex those Harvard muscles.
Oh, Lord.
Oh, goodness. We'll keep yammering for a minute. Like,
how's being in Boston now and being around your cohort and stuff like that?
Yeah. So, for anyone who is interested in looking into this program, it's the EDLD program, so Education Leadership Doctorate. And just a bit of background, it's like very practice-based. So I'm not sitting, doing a bunch of research and stuff. I'm very much interacting with real life problems. And yeah, it's been good so I'm in Cambridge. I live here in Cambridge. Boston is like a 10-15 minute ride away. It's okay. I mean, it's strange because I keep hearing that normally it's pretty busy. It's a bustly little town right outside Boston, but it's pretty much a ghost town right now. So yesterday I went out to dinner with some friends and then we walked through Harvard Yard and it's just empty. It's completely empty. So it's strange. It feels more like I'm at school than when I was in California.
Yeah.
But it's still not, it doesn't feel fully like the real thing. So just excited to get actually on campus and in person next year, hopefully.
But I'm also thinking about how like when you were in California, you were like everyone else was in Boston together or like, at school together, and you were the one who was like in California. How's it been like being able to like meet those folks and see them and hang out with them and stuff like that, like face to face?
Yeah. So I mean, there's like I'd say probably about a third or maybe half of us are here in the Boston area. The rest of the people are scattered throughout the country.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it's interesting because the whole model of the program is to make it so that we build strong networks with each other. And not being in person with each other and not even being in the same time zone in many cases it's difficult to build relationships with people over Zoom, right? Like there's only so much that you really talk to people about over Zoom, especially if you've never even met them in person. And so it's been really great getting to know the people who are actually physically located here. It just adds a different level of kind of camaraderie, I guess, knowing that we're in the same place. Like we are physically right outside of Harvard's campus. Like we are currently present where we technically go to school. So yeah, it's been really helpful in terms of building deeper relationships with people in my cohort.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love hearing that. What you got?
all right, Josh is asking, hey Reynolds, question. So a kid reached out to me via my educational Instagram about someone who was contemplating suicide. I reported this to my principal and had to show the evidence screenshots. And now I got put on an improvement plan for communication with students on a social media platform. Is my educational motivational Instagram? Oh, it is my educational motivational Instagram account. Many of my teachers are telling me to delete my account, but I know how beneficial social media can be. What are your thoughts? I feel as though I didn't do anything wrong, but I have broke a district policy with communication.
Man, I know what I think about that, but
I don't want to see that question.
What do you think?
Is he asking if what he should do about his channel or what he should do about this new initiative?
I think both.
And did I catch at the end there that it's something against the district policy?
Yeah.
He didn't know. He says,
apparently I broke a district policy with the communication.
Man, I mean,
it's tricky, right? Because it's policy, but I don't know. It was a cry for help too, right? It wasn't like you were just kicking it with some kids and like talking like nonsense or just having fun.
Yeah.
So I'd be really interested in what the school would say if you said, okay, facts, like I did, like that broke policy. How would you rather me better like handle this better in the future. Like kids are reaching out the way that kids reach out, which is with a DM or a text or, you know.
And it's a teacher account, which there's nothing inappropriate or wrong about that. And he's allowed to have it. I guess is the communication error because the student reached out through social media.
Yeah, but to me it feels like if it was an emergency, like, or if it was like a concern like that, it just seems.
I would. Yeah,
it seems
I would
like when
not
we
delete
stick
my
to rules
accounts.
just to stick to rules.
Right,
Yeah.
and I would say nope. I felt like this was an emergency. It wasn't just a casual conversation. It was something of a serious nature, and that's why I felt like it needed to be handled.
Yeah.
But he still did everything appropriately. Brought it to school.
I think the key here, first off, I think that Josh should look into what is actually the district policy, right? Like, is there an actual rule that says that teachers cannot communicate with students in that way? Because to me, social media has become just like texting, right? So is there like some sort of rule that says you're not allowed to communicate with students electronically in that way? Number one.
So someone said it's because often districts have a thing where you can't have private messages with students. So I guess like if it was an email to the school, like they have all those like anybody can like go into our email. So like Boys Latin, like, you know, any of the admin can just tap in and see what we were doing. But I guess if it's private, that's what they're going to stay away from.
Interesting.
So what would you tell that person to do? Did you answer them?
Look, the gears are moving in her head right now.
No, they're not. I mean, I would say honestly, like, this kid was crying for help. Sure. Okay. Maybe people feel like it might be inappropriate, which I do understand, right? From the perspective of the district, like that could be like a liability type of thing that they need to think about. But I think that the key here is like transparency. And so being very open and having communication with all parties involved, with the student, with the social worker, with the school leadership, with the family, so that it's not like, oh, you're quietly like behind the scenes talking to my student. No, it is that we are all having like in community having conversations with this person or this child. And like this child obviously needs help and needs all of our input and our support. And I think that like I used to communicate with students electronically all the time. Like I'd have kids text me, but in addition to that, anytime a student did text me, I was immediately in contact with their parents. I let people know at the school community that I spoke with this child, right? Like it wasn't a secret. Like I wasn't doing it behind the scenes trying to be all shady. It was very much just a way for students to communicate with me if they needed something. And I think that transparency was helpful.
But those are the details that I think really matter. So one of the things I love that, like, I don't know if you know this, but like when Cho would give someone a ride home, I remember you saying like, if you were giving like a young guy a ride home, you would like call their mom, make sure that it was cool, say we're going to leave now. GPS says I'm going to be there in 9 minutes. So you know it's not like exactly what's happening. Like here is the plan.
Clear. And
like you're waiting for your Uber. You're just watching that little dot come towards you and then dropping the kid off. And so because I think these rules are made because folks aren't safe, because people do make poor decisions, because they do get too close to students, or they in like a weird way, right? Like we're crossing boundaries that are not safe or healthy. And but if you're doing something like that, I just think it is, if you're doing it for kids and you know what your motives were, then whatever, man. If you're gonna put me on some kind of like, now I'm in trouble, or like you have to like watch my activity, then fine. But I wouldn't change it. Like you created a space where kids felt safe to reach out to you about something that was like literally life or death. Awesome. And like, I think being willing to get into that kind of good trouble, but then knowing going forward that you're not going to make those, like, all right, now I know, like if this were to ever happen again, or students reaching out, it's like, nope, I just don't answer their DMs. I just delete them, or let them know like, hey, this isn't a place where you can communicate with me unless, you know, if it was an emergency.
Yeah, Maisha Hutchinson says our district policy states that we cannot have one-to-one conversations with students unless it is through email or Google Classroom. So they're very clear on that. Yeah. That's interesting. I didn't even know there were policies about that stuff. You guys don't have a policy in your school about that?
I know of. But the leadership changes so much. I don't even know that they always know what policies are.
Okay,
They're
David.
like, where are we? Who's in charge?
David Classroom has a follow-up. He says, how did you gain experience adding relevance to science concepts? Would getting a master's in science be worth it? He teaches bio and chem.
So I guess to give background, I was a Chinese major in college, placed to teach chemistry through Teach for America. And to be fair, I definitely struggled figuring out those things like in the beginning, but I don't think that having an extra degree in science or any science would have made that process any easier. Like figuring out how to add relevance is really more so about like you taking the time to learn about like what is the current climate in the science sector, right? Like in all of the different research and like inventions and technology, anything STEM related that's happening, and keeping it really relevant currently, like in terms of time, and then getting to know your kids and seeing what they're interested in to figure out how, like, where are the intersections between what is relevant currently and what your students are actually interested in. From there, here's how I perceived my role as a science teacher. There was a ton of stuff that I didn't know. There was always going to be questions that I couldn't answer, right? No matter how well rehearsed you are, there's always going to be new things that you don't know about. My bigger role in my mind was to get my kids interested in science so that they would want to go and do this like research outside of class and look up articles and like pursue this in college potentially if that's their path. And so I think it depends on the way that you perceive your role as a science teacher. If it's more so to like provide students with that content, then maybe it might be helpful to get another degree in it. But if it's more so like initiating that interest and that passion for it, then I don't think it's necessary.
Great answer.
Why did you want to go to school for Chinese?
Bro, I started out as pre-med. It kicked my butt twice.
Really?
Yeah, I got horrible grades.
Show.
I know. Horrible grades in organic chemistry.
I do not even believe you. I don't believe horrible grades and show. They're like opposite magnets. Like,
I got a D- my first time taking it. And then I was like, no, I got to try this again. And I got a D+ the next time I took it. And at that point, I was like, I can't. Like, this is not meant for me.
Yeah.
And so I had taken Chinese as like a side thing just in case the pre-med stuff didn't happen because I always have a backup plan. So I was like, oh yeah, I'll be a Chinese major and I'll go translate or I'll work in business or something, right? Like Chinese is really useful. So I ended up majoring in it, and then I applied to Teach for America on a way. I was very much go with the flow in college. It was not the show that you know now.
Chinese is like, it's like what?
And
like
TFA. Those are all very different tracks.
Right. And I was like, I don't have a job, so I might as well just apply to this thing and hope I get in. And I got in. Here I am 8 years, almost 9 years later, still in education.
I always felt like it was cheating when growing up with, if I had friends that like spoke Spanish and then we were in Spanish class, I'm like, dude, you're 100% cheating right now because you already know what we're learning. And I don't know anything. I have to learn this. So, yeah.
All right, let's ask some.
Okay, wait, let me clarify though. I'm Korean.
Oh,
so I speak English, Korean, and Chinese. That was
100%.
Microaggressive.
I 100% knew that too. And
you totally did.
I don't know why I was thinking.
Because I was distracting him off the side. I'm like,
no, in my head, I had in my head that you grew up speaking Mandarin for some reason. I don't know why I was thinking of that.
Does our neighbors speak Mandarin?
Yeah. But I was
because we're always joking about it.
We are when you come over. Okay, right. Let's not tell that story. Cheyenne is asking, hello, I'm a new teacher. I'm about to start a 4-week research unit with my 9th grade. Any ideas to make it interesting and successful? I was considering journals. Topic is event or development history.
Trying
to answer that, Chuck?
Sure, I do. So I think it's tying it to in some way, shape, or form into like one, like what's your why behind doing it? Like making sure that your why for what you're doing is really ingrained in the kids, that they know like why this is important. And it has to go beyond that it's going to be on the test, or that you're going to use this in college, right? And that's if your students aren't really like super college focused. Like our guys, I feel like our students were always like, yeah, I'm going to go to college. And it was like, for what? Like, because I want to be in business. Dude, it didn't always add up. They didn't know really like what they wanted to go into business for, or why they wanted to go into business, or what they wanted the outcome of that business to be. But it's helping your students know why. And then I think it's tying it in some way, shape, or form to things that they're interested in already. So like bridging the gap between like, I have a dude for senior project this year that is doing, it's based around the show, the game, and the culture of Pokemon. And at first I was like, bro, what? Like, all right, let's talk this out. But then it was this weird cultural thing, or like this weird thing, like, yeah, in popular culture where like Pokemon's pretty much been a mainstay and has been able to reinvent itself for so many different generations. It came out in like 1996 or something. And that's so interesting when so many other shows and platforms and games have come out and fallen by the wayside. Like what makes this so interesting, and how has that company been able to do this? So that's what his research is based around. And so, yeah, but now he wants to look it up because now he's learning about something that he likes, but just using all the tenets of how to look up good research, how to suss things out, how to make things engaging, that kind of thing. What would you say?
Yeah, I tell you what, I used to do a major research project with my 9th graders about genetic mutations. And first, I think the most important thing was providing students with options, right? So like you said, right, in making sure that it's something that they're interested in and they know what they're interested in, at least at that level, I would say with 9th graders. So giving them like a list of options that they could opt into. And then I remember first the final product was that they had to create like a visual of some sort, like a poster or like a science fair type of, trifold. And we had them posted around the room. I invited other teachers and staff members from the building to come and look at them. And we did kind of a science fairy type of format where people could just kind of come through and listen to the kids and their projects. And then we did like a Socratic seminar style thing and kept it super informal. Like legit, I was sitting on one of the desks. The kids were all sitting in their chairs. The kids who were presenting could sit on top of the desk. They could stand in the front. They could do whatever they want. But we were just having a conversation and listening to each other about what was their area of expertise. I think having that combination of like, number one, not having this format where you have to stand in front of this entire group and speak, remove some of the pressure. And then the kids were able to really concentrate on actually learning the information, because I wasn't going to be grading them on like if they could stand in front of a class and speak on all the points that they learned. So yeah, any of those could be potentially helpful.
It's a good idea. What you got, dude?
Okay, next question is going to be from Britt. What are your thoughts about adding video lessons into a classroom lesson structure for the purpose of self-paced student learning, like structured taught by the Modern Classroom Project?
Oh, I think this is fascinating, and I think it's so important. Do you know that Diawara did this last year? Do you know about his pre-classes?
Yeah.
So for those that maybe haven't heard me talk about this before, I worked with this guy, and Cho and I worked with him last year, who all of his first 5 to 10 minutes of class were like a pre-class where students would come in and they would engage with like thinking about some problem that was going to kind of set them up for the day. And what he found was that as a first year teacher, like trying to do that, trying to take attendance, trying to answer questions, trying to get like attendance put into the computer, like there were all these sort of like housekeeping things that had to happen also. And it was too hard to get it done. So we started making like these little videos, and he's still doing this, by the way. Like he just does like real world math where he'll like was at a car wash the other day and like made a real quick video about like, here's the car wash. This is how it works. What happens if you take this percentage off and then this many cars come through or whatever? How much money would they make? So he makes these little videos. And then while the video is playing, the kids know, one, they can't interrupt them. Like it's when the train's moving, you got to pay attention now or the moment's going to pass. And he can engage with students that need extra help. He can get the attendance done. He can get all the housekeeping things done and help kids be cared for in those moments. I just think that was so brilliant to me. I was like one of those things where I was like, damn, I wish I thought of that. Like, You know, it was so smart. That's the first thing that comes to mind. What do you think, dude?
Yeah, so I taught, remember ecology? We created ecology. It was like a trimester long class, or like an elective. And I taught it completely on computers, like completely self-paced student learning. So what I did was I created units based on the different units that correspond to the biology classes, because it was supposed to supplement them for like keystone learning. And then helped the kids figure out where their areas of growth were, like what parts of biology were they kind of weakest in. And then they arranged the units in order from like most highest priority to lowest priority. So the kid got to work. I gave them like 2 weeks per unit. I was like, here's 7 assignments, do them within the 2 weeks, do them at your own pace. And then what that created was like all the kids would come in, they knew exactly what to do as soon as they walked into the classroom. They would open up their laptops and get to work on their parts. And then if a kid needed, like you said, you know, some more one-on-one attention, I could really go and sit with that kid for the entire class period if I needed to, and everyone else is just kind of doing their own thing. It also kind of opened up for kids to work in groups, right? Because different kids were working on different units at different times, but like when they are working on the same unit, they could really work together on them without much guidance from me. It's a lot of work, I think, on the front end in terms of planning like the directions and making sure everything is clear enough where kids can just open it up and get started on it. But once you have that figured out, it flows so well.
Yeah, I think one of the things I noticed last year folks were getting caught up on, and I know I did too, was I started making videos for students last year because we were completely asynchronous when all this kind of kicked off. And I got caught up in the production of it, which was really fun on the front end. But then like 3 weeks in, I was like, oh my God, if I have to make a friggin' video every day, it's taking me 2 hours to make a 10-minute video. What I learned though was that even having your directions, like having an audio version of your directions. So if someone needs to go back to it, they need to touch base with it again. It's not reading directions, which no one ever does. I'm not saying like kind of shift because of kids like, you know, inability or unwillingness to read directions, but it is creating directions, because sometimes you read it and read it and read it, like, and you just don't get it. But to hear somebody say it, it just makes more sense to you. To watch a video of someone saying, okay, here's the worksheet, this is what we're working on, here's the lesson plan, here's the part in your computer that you're clicking on first, second, and third, that just makes more sense to kids. So I think when you're creating video content, what you're doing is you're really also differentiating your instruction and creating pathways for students to have access that they wouldn't otherwise, because they I don't know, especially when you're learning at home, it's like there's so many things to distract. This is what we're learning. Every once in a while, some kid unmutes themselves and you hear the 97 things going on around them, and it's like, and then we're getting mad at them, like, bro, I just do the directions. I do get aggravated with those kids. I know that they're home by themselves, they're sitting at a desk and all their needs are met, and I'm like, seriously? Like, I put it's same kid every day, Jaden, put him in a breakout room, and then he like always guests me in there. Yo, Ren, what are we doing? Bro, I swear, I'm not telling you. Go read the directions. Like, you have a 98, go figure it out. Cool. What do you got?
I have another question. It comes from our buddy Diary of a Mad Black Teacher. She is saying, hello, my favorite teacher tuber and favorite Winnie Cooper doppelganger. Oh my gosh, it's hilarious. Thank you. Question, how do I get more involvement virtually when the district keeps sabotaging us? Example, they changed all low grades to NC, which I don't know what that means. And now the kids really don't work because they know how to receive Fs.
Oh.
She's struggling. We are Facebook friends, and I see some of her posts about like the kids in her classroom, and I just feel,
it makes me think of my conversation last night.
It seems like it's not the teachers, like it's the district. It's a lot of, sorry to say, kind of a lot of what BS is doing.
It's ass covering, man, is what it is. It's like, it's not with the students in mind. Joe, I had someone last night. This reminds me of this. It's like this kind of scenario. Mm-hmm. I did a call with someone last night. They said, here's the new issue. We're moving back in person, 100% in person. The school has, I'm not going to say specifics just in case, like, I don't want anyone to connect dots. So like the school has health issues that they need to address. So the students and teachers are no longer allowed to be in there. So they put the kids in an auditorium at another site. So now she has to teach English to 85 kids at a time, and there's no Wi-Fi. So you can't.
What?
So she goes, what do I do? I go, you finally did it. You finally have asked me a question that not only do I not have an answer for, I'm not coming up with a solution for, because it's that dumb. It's like, what did that scenario look like? They're all sitting in a room like, okay, how can we figure this out? And part of that comes from it, just an aggravation of like, look, if this was Hurricane Katrina and your school got wiped out, and now the only place we have to go is an arena, and we have to teach these kids like in mass like this, I'd be 100% behind. I'd be like, all of us together in school, we would have met together, figured out best practices for kids and how we're going to find success in this moment. But when it's like, what, like in this moment, it's like, wait,
when the school messes up,
your gross oversight of your location has now led to us having to teach in this situation in the middle of a pandemic. And so they asked, like, well, what about the 6 foot rule? They're like, oh no, that's gone now because the cases have really dropped. So we don't have to worry about that anymore. It's not part of the conversation. And it's like, what are we doing? Like, so I'm like, what are the, I don't even know. Like, if I did have to be gung-ho, I'm not sure what I would do, but it becomes one of those things that's just so absurd that it's like, what did this meeting sound like? Who had this meeting? Was it anyone in education? Or like, I don't know who's doing this. So anyway, that's on the front end, how I'm thinking about that.
So how would you answer her question?
Yeah, what do you do?
I think that this is where we all need to start thinking about truly, is there, like, what do grades even mean? Right? And like, are children really motivated by grades? Because let me tell you how I've taught whole classes of children who could not care less that their grades were 15%. And so I feel like on some degree, there's an opportunity here to rethink what kids are motivated by and how we might be able to create that in our classrooms. I think something that a lot of teachers are doing right now is like gamifying their classes and like redirecting that energy from like, oh, I need to get a good grade to, oh, I need to win this game. And then once they're into that win the game mindset, like they might be more willing to get that work done and not even realize or feel like it's work, right? But when it's only grade motivated, it doesn't necessarily mean that all the kids will be engaged.
Well, and that's such a good point too, because it's not just about the intrinsic like rewards of education and how it like makes you smarter and potentially a better person. I think a lot of it has to do with this idea that like what are grades for? Like school. And we've talked to kids jointly a number of times where I tell them, like, high school's a game, bro. Like, who cares if you don't like it? Who cares if you don't like Latin? I don't care. Like, some things are just hard to make fun. You can't make sit-ups fun. They just suck all the time. But if you figure out a game to play with yourself, like whether that's being able to check something off, being able to say that you did it, when you know the goal you're working for. So like, what is the goal? Is it college and I want to do this thing and I'm excited about getting the chance to do this? If you don't play the game now, you can't do this. So like my famous one was when I talked to Joe that time where he was like, nah, I want to be a nurse. And he was failing everything senior year. He's like, I want to be a nurse. And I remember saying, Joe, you can't just show up at a hospital and start nursing people. That's how it works. Like, and he was so excited because he wanted to be an emergency room nurse because of what had happened to his friend before freshman year. And it was like, so all of a sudden, Latin's the thing you're going to let get in your way, that you're going to stop you from like living your dream and like honoring your friend and like bringing joy to like, your family. Like, how thrilled will your mom be that you're doing this? So like, stop looking at grades as the motivation. Stop looking at whether I like a teacher or don't like a teacher as the way I'm going to or not going to do work. But it's like, what do you really want? And that goes back to that why. Like, when we get kids focused on what they're doing, it's like, because even the idea, like, I had kids, you're going to hate this. Dudes that get like a 73 and they're like, yes. And I'm like, really? Like, and I always go, what if you dated someone that was 73. Like, what if you were in a marriage and someone was like, "Oh, what kind of grade is your marriage?" Like, it's a 70. What if you're driving a car that was a 73? Like, that's not so exciting now, bro. Like, yeah, you got there, but your one window's busted. You got no air conditioning, and like the passenger side door doesn't open. It's a 73 you're driving right now. So they, I think when we can spin it and get kids to create buy-in in some other way, it's like, all right, take the grades away. I mean, we're doing that this year where we're bumping grades all over the place and stuff, and it's painful because that is the metric all the time. And it's like, I wish we could just remove the metric on some level and say, no, the grades aren't worth, like, to just do away with them anyway. And I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a whole nother conversation. But
I was talking to Walker, was it last week or the week before? And she was sharing with me that like kids were just not turning their screens on. They were not turning their work in. They weren't doing anything, completely disengaged. And what I told her was like, maybe it's a time to put a pause on the academic work. Like don't do an assignment tomorrow. Don't do a reading. Like don't do, those logistical things that you're supposed to do. Ask them how they're doing. Right? Take a day and just be like, what's going on in your life right now? Right? What are you dealing with? Who are the people in your house that you have to like, navigate this pandemic with? Who's your support system? And like really get to know where they are at mentally, especially right now in the pandemic. And that in and of itself can be so much more effective than trying to find like the most amazing and fun classroom lesson.
I'll say the pushback to that though is folks are feeling like they need to there's an end that they need to get to, that things have been so scripted, or that if, like, am I going to get my job back next year because my students aren't learning enough? And it's like, no one's learning. No one's going to learn as much this year or the end of last school year as we would if we were in person, because the systems are all out of whack. It's just not the same thing. And so that's what I hear a lot from folks, like, yeah, but I have to keep moving the needle. So the other day in class, we did two things. One, first of all, dude, this was so funny. It was funny to me. I recorded myself sitting there going like this.
Oh my gosh.
And then I made it my Zoom background. And then I closed my camera, this little slidey thing, closed my camera. So that's all you see. And then I made another one of me talking. Just like that, right? Just nonsense. And so I spoke over top of it, but the kids were like, Reynolds, what's up with your camera? Like, what's going on? Like, your words aren't matching your mouth. And I'm like, I think it's just like a lag or something, guys. I'm not really sure what's going on. It was driving them crazy. One class, they didn't notice till like the last 5 minutes of class, right? That's how disengaged they were. And another class, I just see kids cracking up. And that created engagement, because they were all texting one another like, yo, what's up with my man's? Like, how come this isn't working? Or like, watch, he keeps putting his hand on his face like every 5 seconds because it just runs a loop.
Yeah.
And so that was really funny, right? But it is creating moments of levity. It's like comic relief in a movie, right? Like it has to happen. Otherwise, it's like just serious the whole way through and there's no fun. And then the journal entry was, what would be a song that people would be surprised that you knew? And man, it was friggin' hilarious. It was like High School Musical jams, Miley Cyrus jams, like, and then as they were saying them, I was playing them on YouTube. And that took up like the first 10, almost 15 minutes of class. But the whole idea behind it was, we're just pushing through every day, doing stuff, doing work, reading stories, answering questions, thinking critically. What if we just took a breath to like just be here together, learn a little bit about one another, have like, it's funny, and you're laughing. But I know that feeling of like, when I'm sure you've seen this as an administrator too, like you walk into someone's room and for the moment you're like, what are they doing in here? Like, is there any actual learning going on? And that's the fear of everyone. It's like someone's going to pop in and be like, wait, what are you doing? You're all singing High School Musical together? Like, what? And so, yeah, so I just think folks get nervous about that kind of stuff, and then it makes them not want to do it because they're afraid everyone's always afraid they're going to lose their job. So, yeah.
There are millions of children missing right now in the United States from education. Like the fact that kids are showing up at all, like even turning on their computers, that's something to recognize.
Yeah.
I don't know what you want to do. It's after 2. You have a couple more questions. We answered Ruth's and then Ruth popped into the feed,
Cool.
so I'm not so sure where you want me to go from here.
I can rock those. I won't. I don't have to keep. You want to do a couple more? What do you want to do? Or
You
I
can
can
peace out anytime, Joe.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. Let's keep going.
All right, go ahead.
All right. Our next one is coming from Jenny. She is saying, how do I set up a research project when I only see my kids grade 9 online twice a week? They only really write while I'm in class, and 3 of 6 classes are included in Title I school at risk.
Any thoughts?
Don't do writing.
So what would you do then?
I would give options, right? Like, so in every project that I ever gave to students, there was an option to draw a comic strip or draw like a picture or write a poem, write a rap song. Like, you can do a paper if that's what you feel so inclined to do, but like there were always other options. And then if there's something that's not on this list that tickles your creative fancy, let me know. And then we can talk about what might that look like in the form of a project. And I think giving kids the option, number one, is really helpful because people in general just communicate in different ways, right? We process information in different ways. And so, I think it's just general good practice to provide those options. And especially right now, if there's just the bandwidth is not there to provide that support, there are other ways for kids to show mastery of a topic.
I think also, it's a really great point. The not writing piece. I think if you are going to write, it's about making it in very sizable chunks so that it doesn't seem overwhelming. It's not an 8-page paper. It's, a page, or it's a paragraph, it's a sentence, or whatever it is, and really getting a clear look on that, because I think sometimes we overwhelm kids by saying, here's the project. And it's like, today let's talk about like your opening statement. How are you going to like catch people's attention? Let's talk about your thesis, and we're going to work on that, whatever that is. And then I think there's just other ways, like you said, to take, here's like, why a research paper, first of all, right? So like understanding why we're writing research papers, what are the things that we want students to learn throughout writing the research paper, and then seeing if that equates to anything else. When I used to do, when I first started teaching, they wanted us to do 5-paragraph persuasive essay every year, right? And the way that we did that was through the lens of Martin Luther King's "I Have a Dream" speech, right? Which my students just didn't care about. Like, they just weren't interested in that. They weren't there. It wasn't like an exciting thing. Like, everyone's heard that speech a million times. It's been used for the example for like, it's like the Black History Month thing, like every year in every school, right? So how do we pivot? And we made it 2 different things. And so this is like a slightly longer answer, but like Black history became like a different thing. It wasn't tied to persuasive writing, but what was tied to it was infomercials, that like pre-roll YouTube ads that are only on there. Like, how do they get your attention in 5 seconds, right before you can click skip ad? What are they trying to do to get you to stay on, to watch, to check it out, to see what's going on? How do Instagram ads, and just like, as you're flipping through, every once in a while you get to something, you're like, oh wait, what's that? And then you're like, damn it, it's an ad, but like it brought you in. And then how are they getting you to buy? It's all the same tools that they're using, that you use in a persuasive essay, but it's in, OxyClean, or I was going to say My Pillow, but that guy's in the hell of a lot right now. But even like, there's all these products that like we all know, a lot of people love and use them. It's the same game, but it's just making it on a level that students understand is actually relevant to them. So yeah. I just bought a My Pillow too, and then that whole thing came
literally
out.
right before, the week before that came out, dude, we bought it.
Yeah,
if not maybe a few days before. I was like, oh dang it.
It wasn't even that comfortable. I was a little bit let down, but I'm not gonna get rid of my pillow.
I'm not. I already spent money on it. Sorry, I'm on the wrong button.
The wrong button.
Oh, now I'm.
Sometimes I just sing things. Sometimes when it's a question ready, I ask.
No, I'm not ready. I was ready on the wrong one.
And then I start.
Stop it. Kalisha is asking. I taught for 10 years. I was a great teacher. My strengths: student engagement, building connections. I experienced anxiety and compassion fatigue and don't teach now. How can I overcome this paradox? Currently, I am a teacher's aide instead of teaching full time. I wish I could return, but I am afraid that I will face anxiety and fatigue again.
You saw the old
I'll
question
find
up
it.
there, but I think you're good at overworking yourself.
That is seriously my biggest growth edge. Like when I tell you that here at Harvard right now that I am concentrating on figuring out things that I use to build myself up, something that I've heard over the course of my entire career and now at school is you can't fill from an empty cup. Right. And so you need to make sure that you're putting things into place for yourself. And unfortunately, right, like no one can tell you what those things are. But some things that I've started to do is, again, scheduling things into my calendar to make sure that I'm giving myself breaks throughout the day, and really sticking to them, right? Like they're not just there for placeholders in my schedule. Like I'm really stopping work at those times that I get that alarm. I work out every day just to get my blood flowing, especially right now when we're just sitting down all day long. And I'm like exploring hobbies. Ooh, I'm going to start candle making on the weekends just for fun because I'm like, maybe that'll be something that I'm interested in. But
I want a candle.
I got you.
Okay.
When I start doing it. I mean, I haven't started yet. So, and I say all of this as Kalisha, I was the person who went to school at literally 6 o'clock, 6:30 in the morning, and I didn't leave until 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night. And so I am like the queen, I think, of overworking myself and not taking care of myself. And I burned out really quickly. And so I feel like, again, being really intentional about finding what are the things that fill your cup, what are the things that make you happy and that kind of are able to take your mind away from the work for a second has been really helpful.
Something I remember this happening to you where you would say, I feel like you said you lost weight every school year. And I know you said that your hair always looked healthier in the summer than in the school year. Like you're like it would like
you really
like,
just would show out there that on the internet.
Here's why I think that's important is
I'm gonna smack him for you, Joe.
No, but I think it's like but it's really learning to listen to your body, right? It's like noticing those things and knowing that this is all connected.
Yeah.
Something that was said to me recently was having in mind who you want to become, right? Like or what you want to do, right? So like let's say you have a vision of like what your classroom is going to look like, how you're going to be a part of your school community and the community at large with which you teach in. And then trying to answer this question, who do I need to become to be that person? And I think that a lot of times we just show up and we think that we just have the capacity for it. And it's not that we can't do the work. It's not that it's not achievable. But it's who do you have to become as a person to be who you're dreaming of? And because that person is going to be able to show up and handle stress. And if you can't handle stress, then figure it out. Like find ways to deal with stress, like find ways to deal with your past. So whether that's therapy or exercise or meditation or, taking a break in the middle of the day to go get coffee, like whatever it is, you are, again, building in these things that are increasing your capacity to be able to handle the things that are put on your plate. And, and then knowing that sometimes those things are too overwhelming and you're not going to be able to bounce back. Like, I don't know did you hear about Daquan Meadows?
No.
Passed away a couple weeks ago. Yeah, it's on the internet, so it's not like I'm sharing this. Yeah, he was in a car accident, and I've been keeping up with him for years online because he was into entertainment wrestling. So like essentially like it was like the Philly version of like WWE, and I thought that was so weird and awesome. But like he kept doing it and was like year after year after year, he was like practicing and doing it and training for this thing. I just thought, man, this is like my kind of guy. Like, it's so weird. Like, this is like what you chose. And I loved it. And then I got word that like, I forget who posted it online, and then the Flounder shared it with me. And it's like, those are things that knock you down that it's like, you can't just bounce back from that. Right. And then not beating yourself up for those things, like knowing that, sometimes things are just hard and they crush you. And it's not because you don't have the capacity. It's because you shouldn't have the capacity.
No.
But that, figuring out though who you want to be. I'm sorry that I just told you that news, like, and that's how you kind of found out about it. But like, yeah, it was really, really sad to hear that.
Yeah. I mean, and that's unfortunately like the state of, especially like locations like Philadelphia, right, or any major metropolitan area, and really anywhere that doesn't have quality education for students. Yeah, it's an unfortunate truth, and like the thing is that you have to figure out ways to support yourself through those things, right? Like how many students I've experienced, I think I've lost 5 students to gun violence in the 6 years or the 8 years that I was in Philadelphia. And the hurt never goes away. You know, it's never easier to think about things, but you put structures in place for yourself where you have a support network, right? Like I knew that if there was a day when I was feeling extremely tired or like angry or anxious or whatever, I could just shut everything down, go downstairs to your classroom and be like, bro, Reynolds, I need to talk to you for like 15 minutes, vent, and then I'd go off on my day. And sometimes that was all I really needed to do, was like have a network of people to kind of talk me through things. I also just got a therapist. I'm journaling. I'm meditating every morning, right? So like it's a combination of things that, you know, you do on your own, and then like making sure that you have people to talk to about what you're struggling with. The fact of the matter is that doesn't go away regardless of what sector you're in, right? It is particularly hard, I think, for teachers, but those are just general good life skills to have.
Yeah, I think our community that we're part of refers to it as like having a pain plan, right? So like when when those feelings of like overwhelm come up, when the feelings of depression come up, when the feelings of like I don't know if I'm worth it or whatever that is for you, it's having that thing of like, this is where I go, this is what I do, this is who I call, this is what I listen to, and that really helps a lot. You know, I think one of the hard things this year is like that, like going upstairs to your office and me saying that to you, it doesn't exist right now, right? Like it's like, and not just because you're not there, but like you don't know, there's no where and when people are accessible and where you can go to see them. And like, you know, if I would say like, yo, drive with me to Dunkin' Donuts real quick, I got to talk to you for the 7.5 minute round trip. And then get pissed off because the freaking guy at Dunkin' Donuts would always give you free donuts. And I'm like, I come here every day, bro. You don't give me anything. And you're all like,
that's my bro.
Yo, Cho, you want some free donuts? And I'm like, hey, sir. He's like, excuse me. I'm talking. Yeah, I'm a paying customer. Like, I'm the one that just came here and paid for the coffee. Cho just got 2 free donuts.
Give me free donuts. That's my dude, yo.
I try to be that guy.
You need to go with CJ so we can get in on
Always.
that free donut act. Just come on down here.
You don't think she shared?
Right.
She ate both those donuts.
I know Cho ate both those donuts on her own. I had her over for dinner. I know her tolerance level.
Cool.
Yes, you need to have Ruth hop in for a minute. She can say goodbye to
Cool.
everybody.
All right, Cho.
All
I'm gonna let you go. Thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it. Let's catch up soon. I have fun things to talk to you about that you'll just.
People say they'd like to see Cho more often.
All right.
She's
There you
Make
fantastic.
it happen.
There you go.
All right, buddy. I'll talk to you. Peace.
Bye.
Let me
All right, have Ruth in here. Say
what's
hey.
up, buddy?
Hi. Thank you for reading my question.
You're
I
welcome.
appreciate you both so much. I mean, we're just, we're in Detroit and we're just going through a lot. But my issue is, okay, we're going through a pandemic. Everybody's going to struggle. All right. But then when the Fs went home, all the parents complained and they changed the grade scale. So now either you care or you don't. And that's what's getting to us is like the district keeps sabotaging us. Okay, they don't make them turn their camera on. They don't want to. All right. Well, you can't force them to participate. All right. Give them less screen time. All right. We're doing everything that the district. Don't give them any homework. All right. We're doing everything that you're asking, and they're not working. And then when the Fs went out, the parents are on 10. It's like you can't have it both ways. You just can't have it both ways. So we don't really know what to do. And then I know everybody saw in the paper about us going back face to face, and it's only for the teachers who volunteered. So, low key, all these stories are coming out about the kids want to go back and the teachers won't go back. We're not all vaccinated. We're not all tested. All buildings aren't created the same. So it's just a lot going on. And it's like, how do you get them to? And it's like, I heard what you guys were saying. Well, I find the games for them to play, 3 kids play. I ask them how they're feeling or how they're thinking, 3 kids answer. It's the same 3 or 4 kids in every class that answered the question.
Yeah.
But when the F's go home, I mean, people call me over holidays, man. What can I do about my grade? You get off my phone at Thanksgiving and Christmas because I'm busy. It's like, it really, I hate to say it, it's this codependency way of thinking that you are supposed to make me feel better. You are supposed to give me something, and I'm not supposed to like really give anything back. But I'm just confused. Do you care or don't you? Because when they get the F, you got a problem. I mean, I still have kids. I don't know what site you're talking about. I don't know where the work is. I just got a new computer. It's March. The district has been giving out computers all year. It's March. We don't have internet. The district has been giving out hotspots. And so it's just whatever the climate or the people that we work with ask for, we give them what they need, and they still don't step up. So what is the solution? Because we're also being very poorly evaluated on engagement.
Yeah.
Me and several of my friends got a minimal effective on engagement when you all told them they don't have to call. They don't have to call in. So, I mean, how are you asking me to be more engaging when nobody's there? Okay. So I'm just saying, it's a lot going on. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
You're right. It's I mean, we're seeing a lot of the same stuff too, but it's because what's happening is like the folks, and it's like the folks that are in the know, right, that are kind of running the show for a lot of schools are, one, everyone wants to recreate the wheel, right? Like one of the things that is mind blowing to me is that I had friends that taught exclusively on the internet for years before this even happened, but we didn't like go to those and ask like, hey, how do you guys do this? We were just like, nah, what do you want to do? Hey, what do you want to do? You think we should do this? Oh, this would be cool. And then they just kind of threw it together, right? And then we're not sticking to things. And I think part of that is okay, right? Like the beginning of the year, they were like, no, we're going to hold these kids to a high accountability rate, and we're not going to like take no for an answer, and everyone has to have their camera on. And then it's like, but even though we were saying, no, some of our boys come from homes where like they don't want to be on camera. They don't want their house on camera because some rooms are on point and they have like LED lights and custom decals on the wall and the big screen TV, and their room's a flex. And then other dudes that are like your ceiling's falling down, and like there's 6 other parents have foster kids or whatever. It's just, it's not the same. So, okay, we can shift that to making it so that you don't have to have your camera on. I get it, because I don't think having your camera on, and this is what I told them in the beginning of the year, I'm like, I don't know if they're going like this because they're watching me, or if they could be watching Netflix. I have no idea what you're watching just because your camera's on. I thought you were laughing at my jokes. Turns out you were laughing at like, new Kevin Hart special. So I get the pivoting thing, but it is not knowing why, or like, what are we trying to get to, right? So it's about, I think, having a conversation that teachers are a part of to help us understand, like, what's the value prop this year? Like, what are we putting as like, because the messaging we're sending to students is, if you hold out and don't do work and just don't care, then eventually you're still going to pass, because if everybody fails, we can't fail anybody, right? Like, we can't do that.
And that's what they're doing.
But I think that we're not having any real conversations about social emotional well-being of students. I'm sure your students, I'm sure everyone has students that like, when they come to school, that's their place to be away from home. That's their place to be with friends, to be themselves, to be the person that like, they don't have to have, I always laughed at like my boys when I see them walk to school, and everyone has that look on their face of like, no one's going to mess with me. And they're like, they got the AirPods in, and it's just like just like the way they walk, to everything, their mannerisms. And then when they come into school, it's like, hey, Mr. Reynolds, how are you? And I'm like, really? What? Like you just completely flipped roles, but that's who you have to be when you're walking to school, so that no one messes with you. In school, it's a safe space to be who you are. And with that gone, like, kids are really struggling. And I don't even know that our students really understand why they're so tired. why they're so
Lethargic.
apathetic, why they're so lethargic. And it's like, you do anything because you live in a row home with a backyard the size of a postage stamp, and they took all the basketball nets down in your neighborhood, so you can't even go play ball with your friends because they're trying to, prevent the spread. We're not supplementing that with anything. So on some level, I get it with kids. Here's my switch: is as much as possible, I try to acknowledge that and not just think that kids are trying to get away with stuff all the time. And I know some kids are trying to get away with stuff. I just know it, right? But it's just like when I make the lesson not as difficult, because I know some kids really struggle. Some dudes are going to get away with it. Some kids are in a class that are completely capable of doing hard work, but instead we're doing medium work. And it's like, they are not having to push themselves as hard. And it's like, so that's where I have to come from, is like, some of you are really struggling and this is really hard, and you don't even have an outlet for this, right? Like, you don't even have school. You don't have the food from school. You don't have the love that you get from school. You don't have the belonging you get from school. And I have to stick with that. And then the district's just do whatever the district is going to do. Like, I just like,
I mean, but does anyone understand that school wasn't designed to do all this? School was never designed to raise people's children. School was doing something that it wasn't originally designed to do. All right. And it's like, I feel, yes, the children come to school for all those things, but there's a generation of us that didn't, because home gave us what we needed. So, I mean, I get it that dynamic has changed. And if you live long enough in this system, you see the change. But it's just, again, only give them 2 assignments a week. Okay. Like, everything they keep saying, lower the work level. Walk them through, like you said, record the lessons. Okay. And still, you have the same 4 or 5 kids doing it. And I don't know.
I have to like make myself laugh at these things sometimes, because we're dealing with a lot of same stuff. And I get to talk to all these teachers that it's like, the level of ridiculously is so high that it's just like, what, really?
The bar is in the basement. The bar is in the basement, and they still ain't playing. I'm like I told the kids, I'm like, I'm sorry. We went to school. I tried to explain them like the Dewey Decimal System, how we had to like go to the library, look up a book and look up the number, and we're walking around the library for hours trying to find one book. I'm like, you will never know the pain. If I could have hit a button on Google to find my answers, I'd be straight A's all the way. How are you all? I just said it like, I'm sorry. Like, we were dying for something like this. And we had to spend all day in the library to find 2 books to do our assignment. So, I don't know.
A nice librarian that I had to deal with. So I think, one other thing I'm thinking about too. You didn't have to grow up like this, right? Like, you're 100% right. But man, if there were some kids in the world that if they did have that, like, there was a commercial a few years ago for like Maytag or something like that, was giving washing machines to schools so that teachers could wash their kids' clothes. And it made me so pissed off that was like one of the things that they were like, what? Like, now we're washing kids' clothes? However, I've been in a situation where we have a washer and dryer in our basement of our school. A kid came to school and he had to walk the whole way drenched, right? So I like went and got him some clothes from like the school store, gave them to him to wear during the period, took his uniform downstairs, threw it in the dryer for him real quick. So it's like, it's a both end, right? It's like, I'm glad these things exist for the kids that need them, but it's not everybody's. But if my man comes to school and he's like, what's the alternative? You're just going to sit there and like sit in wet clothes all day? Like, if I can do it, I'm glad that exists. So yeah.
It's the expectation of
it is. It's normalizing it. Right, it's like saying like, no. Of course you wash kids. Wait, you didn't wash that kid's clothes? Iron them? And it's like, no. It's taking what teachers do out of their heart, and then saying, oh, that's a great idea. Hey, everyone should do this. Everyone's going to do this now. It's like, no. Like, homogenize it. Now you just made it. Now you just made it like, I don't want to do it. I'm doing it because I have these tools at my use to love. But listen, I hope the rest of your year is as good as it can be. Spring break's coming. So, that's it.
Hang in
But,
there, Ruth.
yeah, Ruth, hang in there, and I will talk
Love
to you
you guys.
soon.
Thank you.
All right.
You are
Bye.
peace. Peace. Love you so much. Bye.
All right. So that's it, right?
Ooh, that was a
We're
long
on for
one
an hour and a
today.
half. I want to get off because the team has been on here for 30 minutes longer than they normally are. Gang, if there's ever anything that we can do to help, please know that you can still reach out to us through the website, realrapwithreynolds.com. There's all kinds of stuff. Like, you can follow us on social media. I can speak at your school. You can buy the book. There's all kinds of stuff. But I want you to just know, more than anything, is that what we're trying to do here is create pathways and pipelines for you to be the teacher that you were called to be, and that this is a very particularly difficult year. So hang in there, man. We are getting through it. We are moving forward. Things are changing, and hopefully for the better. But if nothing else, we have this community to rely on, to show up with, and I just think that's a really important thing to remember. So we will see you next week, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Peace. I was trying I tried to do the thing where it was all smooth, and then it just wasn't. But sometimes that happens.
And now, a word from our sponsor.
Orion.